All right, today we're going to talk about the distributive property and using multiple terms. Well, not using, but distributive property with multiple terms. That's what I should say. Okay, so we have to go over again one more time though. Shucks, sorry about that. We have to go over that one more time combining like terms, okay? So examples of like terms, remember they have to have the same variables with the same exponent. So what do I mean by that? 2 minus 5. Those are like terms because they both do not have any variables. By the way, I'm going to go at normal speed. Remember, you can pause me and you can go back and you can rewatch things. So if I go a little fast, just remember you have those options. That's why videos are great. If I have negative 8x minus 10x, we can do that because they both have just an x on them. If I have negative 2xy plus 3xy, we could go ahead and add those together because they both have an xy. Another great example, I like to throw some exponents in there because there's no need to be scared of them. Let's try this. Notice that they both have the same variables with the same exponents. And I'll talk about that a little bit over here for unlike terms. You can't do 2 plus 8x. That has an x, that doesn't have an x, you can't put those together. You literally can't do anything with that. You could not be able to do a 3x minus 4y. Two different variables, you can't do that. You wouldn't be able to do a 5xy minus 10y. And I have a lot of students that'll try to do that, but this has an xy, that only has a y, you can't do it. And then last but not least, you have a 5x cubed y plus 2xy. You might think you could do that, but you can't because this one has a 3 as an exponent and this doesn't have anything at all. Okay? So those are like terms and unlike terms. And we got to know that first. We also need to remember this. When you're multiplying, you add exponents. So add exponents. All right? So this is x squared. But when you're adding, you add the coefficients. Add coefficients. These are just the numbers in the front, in case you don't know what those are. So this would just be 2x. Don't forget, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause me. So if we look at this next problem here, x times x times x, that's x cubed. Add those exponents. X plus x plus x, if we've got a spoon and a spoon and a spoon, we have 3 spoons. We're adding those coefficients here at the front. Okay, so be very careful. When you're multiplying, you add exponents. When you're adding or subtracting like terms, then you have to add their coefficients. So we're going to do some of these. It says simplify the expressions below and show all your work. So all they want us to do here is simplify it, which that means add your like terms together. So I notice I have a 10x squared minus, and don't forget that minus 3x squared. So I have 10 of something minus 3 of something, and that gives me 7 of that something. Notice my x squared stays exactly the same. You don't change that unless you're multiplying, right? You only change exponents when you're multiplying, not when you're adding. So be careful there. And then I have 5x minus 7x. So 5 of something minus 7 of something is negative 2. So negative 2x. And this is as far as you can go because these two are not like terms. Let's look at 2's little hint here. See that negative in the front of the parenthesis? There's a 1 between the negative side and the parenthesis. Okay, first thing I'm noticing this parenthesis here, and these aren't like terms, so I can't put these together. So I asked myself, well, why in the world they even put that there? Well, the only thing that's going on is there a positive 1 here. Okay, so if we do positive 1 times both of these things, both of these terms, nothing's going to change. So we have negative 5y cubed minus 3y. However, if we have a 1 here just like it said, we are now multiplying everything by negative 1. So all the signs are going to change. Negative 1 times 6y is negative 6y squared. Sorry, I said negative 1 times 6y. I meant negative 1 times 6y squared is negative 6y squared. Negative 1 times negative 3y is positive 3y cubed. And I forgot to say my cubed again. So negative 1 times negative 3y cubed is positive 3y cubed. Then we say, okay, do we have some like terms here? And I always start with the highest exponent. I notice I got negative 5y cubed plus 3y cubed. So negative 5 of something plus 3 of something is negative 2 of something. I don't have anyone to go with my y squared. He's all alone. Just bring it down. And then negative 3y has no one to go with. So I bring that down. And I tend to use different symbols on the terms that are like, so I could like look back and know what I did. So that's why you'll see me doing that. You don't have to do that. You could do whatever you need to do to get it right. So looking at 3, it looks very similar. So again, there's just a 1 here. So really, nothing changes here. So 2n plus 7. But here we're distributing a negative 2. Negative 2 times 3n squared is negative 6n squared. Negative 2 times 4n is negative 8n. Now you collect like terms. There's no one to go with the n squared. This little person's all alone. But we have 2n minus 8n's, which gives us negative 6n's. And then last but not least, plus 7. He has no one to go with, no like terms. Just bring that down. So they're simplifying with some parentheses there involved. So a little bit of multiplying, a little bit together, putting together like terms. Remember, if I'm going too fast, rewind, go back, pause it, do what you need to do. It's all about you. Sometimes you'll have more than one term to distribute. Now, some people get really confused about this. So let's remember, if I had, and you do not need to write this red part down, if I have x plus 1, x times x plus 1, I say this is x squared plus 1x. So you literally took this and multiplied it times each thing, right? Now, your teacher may have a different way of doing this, what I'm about to show you. I'm going to show you the way I do it, but keep in mind, like I said, your teacher may have a different way of doing it. So what I'm seeing here is I have to multiply this x in, and then I have to also multiply this negative 1 in, right? There's not just one term here, there's two things. So how I look at this is first I have to multiply it, and I've got to multiply each one of those times this, right? So I've got to take my x, and I need to multiply it times the x plus 5. And then I got to take my negative 1, and I got to multiply it times my x plus 5. Now I'm going to pause for a minute. Some of you are like, why isn't she just going like this and multiplying it times both? Well, I am. I'm just writing it out. Okay, so if you know what just those little wings there are about, do it that way. That's totally correct way to do it. So I'm just pointing that out to you. I tend to write mine out this way. That's just how I am. And then I take it step by step. Because sometimes if I do this little like this times this and this times this, I just get all kinds of confused. So x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. And then you have to collect your like terms, which are right there. So x squared has no one, but 5x's minus an x is 4x's. And I'm going to bring down my minus 5. You're all done with that one. So same thing over here. What I'm seeing is I need to take my x and multiply it times this whole thing, and I need to take my 3 and multiply it times this whole thing. So that's what you're going to see me set up. So it's going to be x times x squared minus 2x plus 3. And some people don't need this step, and that's totally fine. Some people do other methods. That's totally fine. Whatever works to get the good grade, you know? Whatever works to get you to understand the concept. So I'm taking my second term here, and I'm multiplying it times the second parenthesis. Because now to me it looks like those old problems when we were up here and we were like, oh yeah, just multiply this negative 2 in. So it's the same kind of deal now. It makes it a little bit easier on my eyes, but you do whatever works for you. So now I'm going to do this part. It was a little thick. Let me change that. So this is x cubed, and then x times negative 2x is negative 2x squared, and then x times 3 is 3x. And then here, same deal. 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x. And 3 times 3 is 9. Here we start to collect our like terms. So x cubed has no one. Poor little buddy. And then we have negative 2x squared plus 3x squareds, which is going to give me a 1x squared. Now, do you have to write this 1 here in the front? No, you don't. So I'm just telling you now. Then we've got 3x's minus 6x's. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. And then this little 9 doesn't have anyone. Just floats on down. And there you have it. So remember, you can always go back, you can rewatch, you can pause it. I know I don't go super slow, but now we've just covered the distributive property using multiple terms. Have a great one.